Now it's time for Greg Bishop and the Council Roundup.
And the Council Roundup brought to you each and every Wednesday by Head West Subs. When you want a great sub, you've got to head west. Their downtown location open for lunch, and don't forget about delivery. Head West Subs. When you want a great sub, you've got to head west. Last night's Springfield City Council meeting starts, as it does a lot of times, with the Treasurer's Report. And here is Treasurer Colleen Redpath-Fager laying out how much tax dollars the city has in their coffers. Here she is laying out all the dollars and cents.
The Treasurer's Report for the corporate fund for the month of June, beginning balance $75,007,454. We took in total receipts of $19,468,750. We had total disbursements in the month of June totaling $25,934,386, which left the corporate fund ending balance in the month of June at $68,559,818. The ending balance in the general fund also included $19,473,940, which is the June ending balance of the ARPA money. Thank you. That concludes my report.
So that's the Treasurer's Report, giving you an idea of just how much money is in the coffers of Springfield City Council. And next we get up a contract report. So they hear from the treasurer, they hear from various other departments if there's other presentations, but they also get a contract report because there's a threshold that under, I think, $49,999.99. If the mayor spends on that amount, they don't have to get council approval. So they get a contract report laying out, things that cost less than $50,000 that the mayor made a decision to spend on. Here is Alderman Sean Gregory questioning one particular part of that contract report from last night.
We have a purchase for a 2023 Ford Bronco. What department is that going to?
That was for public works. I believe it was for one of their inspectors.
So that's Ford Bronco? A 2023 Ford Bronco?
Yeah. It was part of, we had ordered I believe we had ordered a Ford Ranger.
Ford Ranger?
Ford had notified the state contract that they had canceled all the Rangers, any production of them.
That's a Ford Ranger!
As part of our, as part of the supply chain issue, looking for a new unit wherever we could find, or a replacement unit wherever we could find. Because I believe Tim, you can help me. This is one of the units that seemingly broke down quite a bit, and they needed to replace it right away.
And one of the vehicles that they were using.
All right, get to the microphone.
Reliable, so they
Get to the microphone.
A
Bronco.
Tim, can you speak in the mic? Sorry. Just so the people at home can hear you.
So normally our inspectors, are we talking about our building inspectors, people who go out and do that? Normally they ride little vehicles for gas mileage, etc. I'm not understanding how a Ford Bronco is a...
Well, let me back up. It's possible I could have missed it. It may not be for an inspector. I will check on that and let you know what it's for, because it could be for engineering.
It looks
or
like
something else.
Budget Director Metzger may know.
No.
Oh, not on that. Never mind.
Yeah. So we'll.
Never mind.
All right, so still some unanswered questions there about this Ford Bronco they purchased when they say they couldn't get a Ford Ranger. So, yeah, interesting to see that conversation. And obviously, anytime an alderperson sees something on a contract report they're not too sure about, they ask questions, as Alderman Gregory did last night. Let's move on to the next issue, an ordinance about Napa and being the sole source for parts for the consolidated garage in Springfield City Council.
Came up. Good job. An ordinance authorizing acceptance of RFP VM 24-04 with Motor Parts and Equipment Corporation, DBA Napa Auto Parts, for a turnkey parts store operation for an amount not to exceed $5,850,000 from August 1st, 2023 through July 31st, 2026 for the Office of Budget Management. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, actually, and I put in to speak, I would request that we hold this ordinance in committee.
Okay.
Some questions.
Second.
We have a motion to put this ordinance back to committee. We have a second. Any discussion on that?
So again, this was a $5 million contract. I'm sure there's tons of questions, but they've got a couple of weeks before the contract is supposed to be implemented. So we'll see if this comes back up next week during the committee of the whole. Next up, you've got an ordinance. It's on emergency passage, and this is coming from Alderman Sean Gregory. Here is the ordinance up for consideration last night on emergency passage.
341, an ordinance authorizing reduction of fines and costs owed to the city of Springfield in the amount of $38,505 for a total payment to the city in the amount of $7,530 to settle Sangamon County Circuit Court cases 19-MR-723 and 21-MR-1195, City of Springfield versus Julian Randall and Weed liens for 2321 South 14th Street for emergency passage. The chair will entertain a motion to place agenda number 2023-341 on emergency passage.
Well, we'll hear the debate about this. A measure on emergency passage to essentially alleviate debt from liens in the excess of tens of thousands of dollars. So Alderman Sean Gregory will talk about this. You'll hear some opposition from various other alder people, so stay tuned. That's coming up here with Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. The Council Roundup brought to you by Head West Subs. When you want a great sub, you've got to head west. All right, back at it with the Council Roundup, Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk, and we heard an emergency ordinance brought forward that would essentially forgive like $40-some-odd thousand of debt that a property owner racked up from a whole host of different fines and lien put on the property. This measure up for emergency passage, the first that at least I've seen, and several alder people also iterating that first that they've seen. Alderman Sean Gregory talks about why he needs this ordinance to be in place, and it's to help out a constituent that's looking to sell this property. Here's Alderman Sean Gregory.
This is a house over in Ward 2. This house has been vacant for many, many years. The person that bought it for back taxes, of course, not knowing for a substantially low amount. And they have completed it over the time span. So with careful discussion with Corporation Counsel, it was decided that maybe the amount should be reduced, as there was all types of promises and things made, of course, before the administration change. With this court cases and things of that nature. So at this time, me and Corporation Counsel talked, and it was decided that the fair amount would be for what the city has in cost as far as sending our inspectors, taking care of the property and the liens and fines.
So again, Alderman Gregory saying that he wants to move forward with this on emergency passage. Here's the Corporation Counsel, Murdoch, talking about the how we got to this point. Again, Corporation Counsel Murdoch.
There were per diem fines, so there were fines accruing per day. This case began in April of 2019. We took final judgments in August of 2019. So the property was accruing several $100s worth of violations per day, which is how it got up to the $46,000 approximate fine amount.
So was it just because of weeds and trash, or what exactly was the fine? What's the violations?
No, there are actually three different cases that this ordinance is addressing. So there were several property violations that were occurring, violations of the building code. So exterior structure violations separate from your weed and grass trimming.
So a lot of different things stacking on top of each other, leading to $40,000+ worth of fines and a lien on the property. And then you have other alder people. Brad Carlson, he chimed in to raise concern about this setting a certain type of precedent at the city council.
Because from reading this, my understanding, $38,000, they're getting offered $75,000, so we're forgiving roughly $31,000 in debt.
No, we're actually forgiving the $38,505. That's the actual.
So even more. Okay, $4,000 to $7,500. Okay.
So, yeah, you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars being forgiven here if this ultimately passes. Alderwoman Conley raising questions about this and what's ultimately happening with this particular ordinance on emergency passage.
I think this is exactly the kind of situation where we, as a council, should be, recognize that things have changed, reward someone who is making an effort to improve the neighborhood, and I very much support and encourage us to use this kind of a model for a situation like this. So thank you very much for bringing this forward. I look forward to voting for this.
Right.
So Alderman Sean Gregory again lays out some of the things he believes is important about this passing and getting this off of the lien rolls and actually have it be a tax generator. Here is Alderman Gregory.
We have a terrible development in my ward that has
that's Alderman Donnellan. Let me get Alderman Gregory lined up here. Here's more from Alderman Sean Gregory about this particular ordinance.
This is a house that a guy bought for $5,000. $5,000. So he bought a house that he had no clue of the amount of extensive work that it needed. He had various as Corporation Counsel said to really fix the house, and with money and finances, it took a little while, and we had to do what we had to do to make him show. For whatever reason, people miss things, but I will say that we got one or two options. We can hold the lien to the house and take the house or whatever, and or we can grant this, let this house be sold and get a family in it. And help improve the neighborhood. That's the two choices. I totally understand, and
And you have concerns, obviously, that other people have brought forward, including Alderman Donnellan, who raised concerns about this entire issue.
We have a project, and I should say we have a terrible development in my ward that has significant fines, well over $500,000. And my concern is that we walk down, even though this is not apples to apples, I admit that. It's a completely different set of circumstances. But we have, in my ward, we have a development where they have not kept it up. They started to make improvements. They had deadlines, didn't meet the deadlines. Now we're taking them to court, and it's a terrible mess, a terrible eyesore for the neighborhood. And I caution us getting into the habit of starting to forgive anything, because we got to hold. I mean, this is. And I don't mean to be preachy, I'm really not, but this is the kind of thing that we complain all the time about at the Horseshoe of property owners not keeping their properties up, not doing their share. We obviously have a property owner here that's demonstrated they've made the improvements. I'm happy to see that. But for the ones that haven't fixed up the properties and aren't willing to cooperate, aren't willing to demonstrate that they want to see Springfield better, we cannot forgive those. So I talked to somebody about this earlier today about what I was going to do, because we didn't talk about it, Alderman, but this conversation has helped me make up my mind this evening, so thank you.
So we'll hear more coming up about this ordinance on emergency passage with the Council Roundup next, here with Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. Back with the Council Roundup. Brought to you by Head West Subs. When you want a great sub, you've got to head west. Their downtown location open for lunch. And don't forget about delivery. Head West Subs. Let's get back into the Council Roundup. Up on emergency passage was an ordinance that would alleviate the debt of around $40,000+ for a property owner, single family dwelling that they're looking to sell, but they got a lien against the property because of fines stacked on top of fines over years, and they came to some resolution, but it's up on emergency passage. Larry Rockford, a new alderman on the city council, he had questions as to, has the city council ever seen something like this before?
As a new alderman, is this the first time we've heard about this case? I mean, this is a new ordinance, and it's been going on since 2019. So my question is here it is going on 4 years, and we're just now coming to an agreement. I mean, whether it's past administration or whoever, I mean, shouldn't this have been addressed sooner rather than now?
Do you want me to answer that?
Anybody. I'm just asking, as new aldermen, alderwomen, I mean, This started in 2019, and now we're going to have to decide on.
They don't come to council.
It's my understanding that my office would not bring these types of settlements to the city council.
I think it's in front of you because the mayor wouldn't waive the fees.
Actually, Mayor?
And the mayor has.
Well, I
just
think
so-
when he did waive fees, we
Oh,
had.
no, I
it-
mean this mayor, sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, we've talking old administrations and stuff, and I don't, so I'm kind of confused why this 2019's been going on. And here it is, 2023, and we're still talking about it.
Just so you know, Alderman, I have requested from Corporation Council that an ordinance be drafted that any debt over $15,000 comes to council. So this would be a typical thing from that point forward, sir.
So again, Mayor Misty Busher, new in the office, saying that the previous administration may have forgiven debt, but her administration is not going to do that unilaterally, and that's why they have this in front of them. Now you've got the Alderman Ralph Hanauer chiming in on this as well with his concerns as to where this could be headed.
I applaud the guy for what he did. I appreciate it. But I'm very concerned about what this does going forward.
If
I'm
I
very
may follow
concerned
up,
about it.
I would say though, for their apartments, and I have some in my ward too. If the one on Monroe ever gets fixed to the point
When it gets fixed.
when it gets fixed, as it's supposed to, we should look at something to get it rolling, get the lien off, and get people living in it. We have a shortage on affordable homes, all types of stuff. We want them to get it fixed. The city doesn't want the property. We don't want the properties. We want to nudge them to get it fixed.
So, yeah, I think that's a good point. You got to get this thing fixed. You got to get it off the tax liens, and then you got to be able to move forward and get a family into that property so that it can start generating tax revenue. More from Alderman Sean Gregory.
I'm right along with you. We want the houses. We've lowered our vacant housing registry and added a little wiggle room for people to get it fixed because we want them fixed quickly, and we're going to have these situations. This is administration difference. It was once upon a time, a previous mayor would make these choices, but this is something that we gotta come out and make these choices. And when those get fixed, I wanted to look at that and stand with our colleagues. So
next up, you've got Alderman Brad Carlson, who's raising concerns as well as to the precedent that this sets if they do move forward with such an idea.
I think it's admirable. I mean, I think we all want, property owners to fix their property and be able to sell it. But to me, I'm just concerned that, it's him personally who racked it up, and now he's sort of asking for some forgiveness.
But he may have not racked it up if he doesn't buy a house that's already been 3 years vacant.
Yeah. Okay.
That's more so what I'm saying.
Okay. Thanks.
Alderman Connolly also chiming in, talking about how she likes this idea.
What the precedent that's being set tonight is that there are clear questions and concerns around the horseshoe about how we examine debt forgiveness, especially in something like housing issues, that we are not looking at setting a firm, fast rule that anything that gets improved gets forgiven. What we are doing instead is saying that this is a case-by-case basis. And Mayor, you and I have talked about the fact that you are planning to bring an ordinance where any debt forgiveness will come before this council. So it is something that we as a council will be seeing, and we will be having these conversations, and I think they're healthy conversations for us to have.
So now it's time for the vote. How did the vote do? It's emergency passage, so it has to have the mayor voting on it, but Mayor Misty Busher.
And the motion fails with 5 voting yes, 3 voting no, and
Mayor,
3 voting
point of
abstain.
parliamentary procedure,
sir.
does that mean the
Present.
ordinance now goes through the committee process?
Yes, it does.
Corporation Council.
So ultimately, we could hear this again come up where you might be able to convince at least one other alderperson to get on board and put it over that 6th vote threshold. So we'll be watching that closely to see if that is ultimately what happens with this ordinance. All right. Moving on, we've got an executive session that was called in the middle of the meeting, and the session, they go behind closed doors and they deal with things. What exactly is going on here? Let's hear it.
At this time, I am going to ask that we could go out of order for a moment. Okay. We have
Make the motion, we go into executive session for
Thank you.
probable.
2C11 and 2C23 that's pending improbable litigation. and operation of a municipal utility.
Second.
All right, so
The
some
motion
kind of lawsuit against the utility. I guess we'll see where that ultimately goes. So that was, only about a 4-minute executive session or so last night. But then they got right back on into it, and it was time for new and unfinished business. Alderwoman Notoriano wanted to address the controversy around the YMCA and the news conference we saw last week and the national headlines that we saw last week about a minor girl being uncomfortable in a YMCA facility with a transgender adult in there while minor children are changing. Here's Jennifer Notoriano.
Last week, a small group of politicians traveled to Springfield, some going more than 100 miles out of their way, to single out people in our community and to target the employees, administration, and members of our YMCA for public harassment. This effort to sow discord was simply intended to generate headlines and more clicks. So rather than giving these outside agitators the attention they craved when they came to Springfield to promote themselves, I choose to celebrate the ways, large and small, in which our YMCA, our city, and all of us who call Springfield home support one another. We all appreciate that the Y strives to offer a welcoming space, so I choose to highlight the staff, the administration, and the members who make it that way, rather than the politicians who traveled more than 100 miles out of their way to use our community as a backdrop for their manufactured outrage.
I don't know if it was manufactured outrage. I mean, you had a minor girl concerned that she was having to change in a locker room with a transgender adult. That's the crux of the issue here. And again, I asked the Y for comments as to, why they are elevating the concerns of a transgender adult over the concerns of safety from a adolescent, but we have yet to get back that particular statement in response. So who knows? We may hear more about that story in the future. The mayor wanted to make sure she highlighted an event coming up that includes the YMCA.
I want to share that instead of a food drive, there is a storm recovery food bundle people can go get. It is a partnership with Central Illinois Food Bank, Hy-Vee, Target, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and the YMCA. It will be held tomorrow, Wednesday, July 19th, from 6 to 7 p.m. at the downtown YMCA at 601 North 4th. It's a drive-up facility. They will have a bundle of food, and inside the box will be dairy, protein, and produce, which people would have lost during the storms. Again, this partnership is brought to you by Central Illinois Food Bank, Hy-Vee, Target, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and the YMCA. It's tomorrow, July 19th, from 6 to 7 p.m. at the YMCA on 601 North 4th. It's one box per household, but they will just have you drive through and you will get food that you can replenish that was lost in the storm.
So good thing going on there. Of course, the storm, still people recovering from that, and good to have the community come together, all kinds of different organizations to make that happen. Now it's time for citizens to address the council. And Jeff Pettis is from the Lincoln Library, the public library for the city, and he wanted to make sure that the Board of Trustees were having their voice heard. So there's a letter that they unanimously passed, and he wanted to read that to Springfield Aldermen last night.
Library Trustee Manual states that we have a legal and fiduciary obligation to ensure that our public library provides the highest quality service. We feel that these standards have not been met and that our hands have been tied in several important matters with the Lincoln Library since at least the year 2017. The pattern that began with the hiring of Willow Hearn continued with the hiring and subsequent firing of Rochelle Hartman and culminated in the firings of Summer Griffith and Hillary Raines. This is in no way typical and should not be treated as such. The truth is, no library director in Springfield's history had ever been fired by a mayor prior to last year. In the 137-year history of Lincoln Library, there have been just 12 library directors. 4 of those 12 held their positions in only the last 6 years. Since the library's conception, the Board of Trustees has had significant responsibilities and oversight over the public library and was a respected part of city planning. That all began to change in 2017, the reason for which we have been unable to find. Since 2017, the board has had absolutely no involvement in decisions with library administration.
Jeff continued reading from the letter about concerns that the Board of Trustees has moving forward.
The past 3 directors were hired with absolutely no involvement by the board, and the past 2 directors were fired without the board being given a courtesy notice. Again, it is unclear why this change occurred, but the pattern of disrespect and disregard for the board has continued to a point where we now question what our role is. As such, we feel it is appropriate to examine the board's role within the function of the library and work with City Council to more clearly delineate duties in a way that respects the positions to which we were appointed. We have looked at libraries around Illinois with similar population densities as Springfield, Bloomington, Decatur, Champaign, Peoria. All of them have a layer of insulation that protects them from the political shakeups that come from changes in city administration.
And final thought here from Jeff last night in front of the Springfield City Council talking about the library.
Comply with the city code and the board's bylaws with respect to the board's role in hiring the next library executive director and any subsequent director. We propose that the library board members be given all of the following prior to any decision being made. 1, the resumes and cover letters of all applicants for the position. 2, the opportunity to interview said applicants. And 3, the opportunity to recommend applicants to be hired to the mayor and the city council. The board wants to work with you to help find a solution to this situation, and we are encouraged after speaking with Corporation Counsel that this administration is open to working with us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So, there you go. Some comments from Jeff. And full disclosure, I've been in multiple murder mysteries with Jeff, so it was good to see him last night in front of the city council. And that's your council roundup, brought to you by Head West Subs. When you want a great sub, you've got to head west. Their downtown location open for lunch. Head West Subs. All right, that's all we got for you on the council roundup.